All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Ramblin Radio, episode number 79. In the house, talking about some finance stuff. Ugh. Finances. Ugh. That's gross. Why would we want to talk about that? We're creative. We don't need no finance help. Yes, we do, actually. It's essential. Everybody does. And it's something that isn't taught in school, unfortunately, and it should be. But before we get into that, a few things that I want to talk about. No 5-star reviews. Unless you want to leave a 5-star review, you'll get my productivity journal. All you got to do is leave a 5-star written review and take a screenshot of it before you click submit. Send it to hello@zackkravitz.com, and I'll give you my productivity journal. And we're going to be doing a giveaway again. I just don't know what yet. So I will tell you a little bit later in the year, but I want to do something epic for the 5-star review people. Just don't know yet. But you will get my productivity journal. And if you don't have Apple iTunes, that's okay. Just send your review as an email at hello@zackkravitz.com. Yesterday was such a great day. Yesterday, a couple of Creators Blueprint members, if you don't know what the Creators Blueprint is, that is my coaching program that I'm building. That's my thing. That's my shindig. It's my thing. We had a couple Creators Blueprint members come and film like a little piece on me, and it was so fun. Shout out to Luke and Mike. If you want to hear their story, they both have incredible stories. Mike quit his gas and oil job of, I think he was making 6 figures, but I think on average, I think it went up and down. I'm not really sure, but he made about 85, 90K a year, which is a good money. I mean, I think a lot of people would love to have that, but obviously he hated it, and he just decided to quit and go full-time creative, and he's been doing it ever since for about 3 years now, and it's just crushing it. Luke is 24. He was in a bunch of debt, college debt, going through a divorce, like all this stuff that you would think someone at like 32 or 35 would be going through. But he's gone through all that, and he just moved out here to Los Angeles about 5 months ago, and he's been doing really well since he moved out here. And it's just such a surreal moment. It's a full circle moment because they were actually the first people inside of my very first program. I had a filmmaking course that's been renovated and updated, and it's actually a part of the Creators Blueprint. But they were like in the very early stages of what I started to build, right? And so it was just so cool. And then they got inside the Creators Blueprint, and it's just so cool to see where they've come, and now we're all kind of collaborating on a piece together. It was just very cool. And it was just a beautiful reminder for me on why community is so important. You know, if you don't have community in your life, if you don't have a circle of people that inspire you, if you are the top dog in your circle and you feel that way, that's a problem. And that needs to be something that you fix. You need to have like-minded people. You need to have people that are better than you, and you need to surround yourself with people like that, because it's going to keep you fresh. It's going to keep you hungry. It's going to keep you motivated and keep you accountable as well. And the community that the Creators Blueprint has kind of blossomed to be is beyond my expectations. You know, the people that come into the group, I make sure that I curate a group that is going to work well together, and then that's pretty much my job. And then they take it from there, and they build their own community. They've got private groups. They meet up with each other. Some members have built businesses together. I mean, it's beyond what I ever thought would actually happen. And so yesterday was just a really sweet moment for me, and it was cool to collaborate with them on that. So that's all I wanted to say. Shout out to Luke and Mike. Appreciate you guys, and I'm excited to see what comes out of that filming day together. So we'll see. I'll let you know when it comes out. But let's talk about money. Let's talk about finances situation. I've created an episode about this before, but obviously now that we're on the tubes, I want to bring this episode back, revitalize it a little bit, talk a little bit more about it, and talk about why it's so important. So if you are feeling lost with your checking accounts, your saving accounts, like when taxes come around, taxes are starting to come around in the next couple of months. When's tax season? April? I don't even know anymore. That if you're feeling antsy about that, if you, after you go through pay taxes and you feel like you feel broke and you feel like dog shit, this is the podcast for you. If you feel like you need a better financial plan, I'm not talking in really investing right now. I'm just talking about having a hold on your finances and feeling really good about it. So what I've done is I read a book. Everybody has a book that has changed their life. And I have a couple of them. One of them is The One Thing. If you haven't read The One Thing yet, that book has changed my life. I've read it twice, maybe even more. And I actually go back into it and kind of look at some things. And another book that has kind of changed my life is this book called Profit First. I don't know if you can read that on the tubes, by Mike Michalowicz. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right either. But Profit First, that is the book, and that is kind of what we're going to be talking about today. I've recommended it many, many times. And the way that this guy has set up his finances is something that doesn't make sense to like a lot of accountants, a lot of banks, and things like that. He sets up multiple accounts, and he makes them all work together. And I'll kind of talk about how you can break that down and what these accounts look like and such. But I also recommend getting the book, and I can throw it into the description here for you to check it out. And it has changed my life, because what it has done is it makes me feel like I have a little bit less than I really do. Well, kind of a lot less. It makes me feel like I have a lot less than I really do. And when it's time to go pay for taxes, I'm not sweating. When it's time to go and pay for things and like go on vacation and things like that, I'm not sweating. And you might be thinking it's because of the money that I make or the business that I've built. And that's part of it. Obviously, you need to make money, and we're going to be coming up with plenty of episodes and things like that to produce more revenue as a creative. I told you that's like a goal this year, is to really help you as much as I can and provide as much free content as I possibly can on this podcast. We're gearing towards that, of building more revenue streams and things like that. But even without making money, this is such a great, you just feel so in control of what's going on, and you feel less stressed about the money that you have. And it comes down to this system. So I want to talk about how it works and why it's powerful. So the way it goes down is you have to have a bank that allows you to set up multiple accounts without charging you stupid fees and things like that. Like you can't have like a minimum, like if you're at a bank right now that, doesn't allow you to have $0 in a checking account without charging a fee. If they do charge you that penalty fee of having like a $0 or a certain minimum amount, this isn't going to work. You have to find a bank that doesn't have those penalty fees, or you could even ask them to waive those penalty fees. You can actually call them up and talk to them and tell them what it is that you want to do. They might make fun of you. They're not going to make fun of you because they want your business, but they might be like, oh, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, or what, that doesn't make sense, or whatever. Don't listen to them. Don't listen to them. Just ask them if you can set up multiple accounts. You're always going to have money in at least one of those accounts. Just explain what I'm about to tell you in this process. And that key word is process. So this is the Profit First method, but it is a process, right? And that's so important. And that's what the Creator's Blueprint is really built upon, is all these little individual processes and formulas. Formulas, same thing. And it's made up of a bigger system. And I thought this was so important. This is a process, right? It's a step-by-step guide for how to do this. And once you incorporate it into your business and you follow it, it gives you results. And that's what the Creator's Blueprint does. And that's why I've included this inside of the Creator's Blueprint. That's how powerful it is. And I'm going to be talking about it with you right now. Sorry, I'm all over the place, but I don't have my notes. Sorry. It happens. I feel inspired. So we're going. Okay. So back to the checking account. So what you're going to do, you're going to have a total of 7 accounts. Sounds mad, right? Sounds totally crazy and stupid. But you're going to have a total of 7 accounts. You're going to have 5 checking accounts. And you're going to have 2 high interest savings accounts. And if you even want to step up your game and have a high interest checking account, why not? Why not have you make a little bit more money just by having your money in those high interest checking accounts? Now, if you live in another country, I'm not going to talk about what bank you should get. You could send me a DM if you really want to know like the banks and things like that. But the reason why I'm not going to mention it is because we have a lot of people all over the world that listen to this podcast. My banks, you're not going to have access to the bank that I use, just like I'm not going to have access to the bank that you use if you're in Australia or the UK or wherever it is that you're at. But if you want to send me a DM at Zack Kravitz, I'm more than happy to give you a little insight of the banks that allow you to do some of these things. So you're going to set up 5 checking accounts, right? And you're going to name these checking accounts different things. So one is going to be called income, all right? And this is where all of your income is going to come flowing in. So if you have an LLC and you want to have a business checking account, you would want to have this be part of your business checking accounts, right? So you'd have an income checking account, all right? Then you'd have a operating expenses checking account. This is where you're going to pay your employees if you have employees, or this is where you're going to pay your annual software stuff if you have certain services and things like that. Whatever business expenses that you have, it's going to come out of your operating expenses checking account. And I also recommend having a business credit card as well and a personal credit card. You should have 2 credit cards. If you have your own business, split up your expenses and it's going to allow you to keep track of, okay, this is a write-off. Okay, this is not a write-off. It's going to make things a lot easier. If you have an accountant or if you're doing it by yourself, it's going to make things so simple. So definitely having a credit card. And so if you have a business credit card, you would link that to your operating expenses checking account, which will then, that's where you pay your credit card bill for those business expenses. Hopefully that makes sense. We're on the same page here. So we have income and we have operating expenses. The next one is called owner's comp. And this is where you are going to pay yourself, even if you don't have an LLC. Still do this. Still pretend like you're actually paying, like the business, like your business is paying you, right? So this is where all of your personal expenses are going to be, whether it's rent or, a car payment, or if that's part of your business, then that would be in operating expenses. Whatever your personal expenses, like food. Sometimes it can get a little weird and maybe you have a client meeting or something at dinner, that would be a write-off. So that would be a business expense. You would use the business card for those types of meals out, etc. But other than that, all of your personal expenses are going to be coming out of that checking account. So now we have 3 checking accounts. Now here's where it gets exciting. Not really. This is not very exciting, but it's going to help. I promise. This is so powerful. The 4th checking account you're going to have is called taxes. This is where you're going to be filtering the money that you're going to end up paying for your taxes is going to be from this account. And then your last and 5th account last and 5th checking account is going to be called profit. And you're going to filter in some money for profit. All right. So now we have our 5 checking accounts. Then we have 2 more. And these 2 accounts are going to be in a high interest personal savings account. That's probably the best high interest accounts that you're going to be able to get. It's the highest interest that you can get, especially as a savings account. Savings accounts, high interest, are going to be more than high interest checking accounts, right? So you're going to have a high interest savings account at a different bank, right? So you're not going to see this money. And this is why this is so powerful. So now we're starting to kind of spread out our cash to different areas where it feels like you don't even look at it. You don't even have it, right? And this is kind of what I do with a lot of my investments and things like that. And I'm no professional by any means, so take this with a grain of salt. But the way I invest is, I have my the companies that I trust in, the companies that I love. And whenever I have spare cash to get into the market, I'll take advantage of dips and things like that, and I'll throw money into the market, and I just forget about it. I've already pretended that money is gone, right? Because if I lose it, that's fine. And the stuff that I put in, if I lose it, yeah, I'll suck, but I'm okay. I can still afford my lifestyle. I can still afford the things in my business. That you don't want to affect those things, right? So that's kind of what we're doing here, is we're spreading around our money so that it feels like we have kind of less than we do. This is why there's so much mindset stuff around money, because it really can fuck with you in the head, whether you think you have more than you do or less than you do. You got to be careful, and you have to see what those belief systems that you have around money are maybe holding you back and limiting you from making the decisions like investing in yourself. Maybe they're crippling you from making those investments that you should be making. You have to ask yourself those deep questions, but that's a later podcast that we can talk about those things. Okay, so we have our 5 checking accounts, and now we have our 2 high interest savings accounts at a different bank. And these accounts, one of them is going to be called taxes, and the other one is going to be called profit, right? So we're repeating those 2 other checking accounts that we were just talking about. This will make sense in just a second here, all right? So now this is how it works, and this is where you have to make your own decision on what makes sense for you. But I can give you a good starting point. So every single month, your money is going to start coming in from however you're producing your revenue for your business, whether it's client work, digital products, consulting, whatever the hell it is, YouTube, affiliate marketing, whatever. All that stuff, you're going to link it all to that income account, all right? Then, depending on when you get paid, how much you get paid, etc., I recommend either doing this twice a month or once a month. Again, if you have a steady paycheck, maybe you do work in a 9-to-5 job, I still recommend this. Even if you have a 9-to-5 job, I still recommend this. It's going to be a little bit different because you don't have operating expenses versus personal expenses, but maybe you can create something similar. Anyways, all your income is going to be going into that income checking account, right? And once or twice a month, this is what you're going to do. You're going to split up all of that revenue from your income account once or twice a month by percentages into these other checking accounts. So a great starting point for you would be having 50% of that go into your owner's comp. So things like rent, things like gas and electric, and the things that you need to have a house or have a roof and food and actually live, right? Now, I do understand that if you work from home like I do, I get to write off some of this rent, not all of the rent, but a good portion of the rent because I do work from home, right? Keep that in mind as well. And I know some people even pay for a portion of their rent using their business card. If you want to get crazy, some people spend a portion of their rent, whether, I don't know if you're able to do this or not, depending on where you live and your landlord and things, but some people pay a portion of their rent using their business credit card or just their checking account. And then the other comes out of their personal side, right? Because you can only write off a certain percentage if you work from home. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So again, and that's kind of, I mean, you could start doing that now. Maybe I should be doing that now. I don't do that personally. Maybe I should. So anyways, so 50% owner's comp would be a good starting point, in my opinion. Again, you need to find out what works for you, but that's a great starting point. And these percentages are going to change. You're going to find out like, I really don't need, 50% to go to my personal expenses. Right now, I actually need more in my business than I thought. Or maybe it's the opposite and you don't need as much money to make your business run than you thought. And that's actually a good thing. So 50% in owner's comp and then 30% in operating expenses. I think that's a great starting point. And then taxes. Taxes, that's totally up to you, depending on where you are in your tax bracket. and how much money you spend on your business in terms of write-offs and things like that, I think 15% maybe would be a good starting point, but that's all based off of how much money that you make and how much money that you spend. So now we have 50%, 30%, and 15%. So that leaves 5% left for profit, right? And this is the profit of your business. And you keep doing this, and the numbers are going to slowly build and shift and change. And you're gonna start seeing, oh wow, like I'm spending way too much money on my personal expenses, or I'm spending way too much money on my business right now. Like I don't need to be spending this much on my business. And you're gonna start to, the numbers are going to tell you a story of what's going on with your business, which is really, really interesting. So now you have the money in these different accounts. Now what you're going to do, again, once to twice a month, now what you're going to do is you're going to take all the money that was in the tax checking account and in the profit account. You're now going to transfer out of those checking accounts into those high interest savings accounts at that different bank. And this is where the magic happens, because now you're eliminating that money from those checking accounts. That money's gone. In your mind, that money's gone. You don't think about it. You don't talk about it. You don't look at it, whatever. And now you're getting money. You're starting to grow money in those tax and profits, high interest savings accounts in that different bank. All right. Now we're doing that. We're doing it steadily, time and time again. And now it's time to pay estimated taxes, right? Every quarter we pay estimated taxes. I hope you're paying estimated taxes. Makes things easy, so you don't have to spend 20 grand at the end of the year, or 10 grand or 30 or whatever, 5 grand, whatever it is. It doesn't become this big, massive thing at the end of the year. Estimated taxes for the win, right? So now it's time to pay estimated taxes. We got our deadline. Today's the date, blah, blah, blah. And now you get to use that high interest savings account at that different bank, that tax account, to pay for your taxes. And so it doesn't even feel like, because you're not looking at those accounts, it feels like you're like that money was gone anyway. So you're like, oh yeah, no problem. Take my money, IRS. It just becomes so much easier to let that shit go. So every quarter you pay for your estimated taxes using that account. Now the profit account, what is that all about? What's that for? First of all, you want to see it grow, right? I like to look at that as like, I'm growing something here, like the business is growing. I like to use it as like a little game, and I like to try to grow it. And then there's also something that I do with it. And again, this was a part of the book, Profit First, and I think it's a phenomenal idea. And a big part of my philosophy is just being playful, having fun, spending on things that provide you joy and fulfillment. And the way you set up your accounts here is going to allow you to do that and not feel bad about it whatsoever. So every single quarter, what I do is I take half of what's in my profit account and I go and spend it however I want to spend it. And I don't feel guilty about it. I don't feel bad about it. I do whatever it is, and I do it for me, or I do it for somebody else. Whatever makes me feel good, and I don't have to ever convince somebody otherwise. That's for me. If I want to do that, I get to do it. If I want to go and pay for that vacation, I'm going to pay for that vacation. If I want to go and donate it to charity, I'm going to donate it to charity. I don't have to convince my audience, you guys, anybody, what I do with my money. That's what I want to do. And I don't have to, there's nothing to prove. So I say that because I want you to feel the same way when you start doing this, and I hope you do. So when you spend that money, you do whatever the hell you want to do with it, and make sure it makes you feel good. So every quarter, I take half of what's in the profit account and I go and do something fun. Now, usually after a Creator's Blueprint launch, I like to go on vacation and just kind of hit a reset. And guess what pays for that vacation? What's in my profit account pays for that vacation. So not only do I get to go on vacation, but it also feels to me like it's like I'm going on vacation for free in some weird way, because that money was gone. It was gone in my mindset, because the key is to not look at it. You don't want to get emotionally attached to this. And we talked about this in other podcasts, how, if you are going to run a business, you have to let your money go. And that's the only way it's going to come back. It's that breathing analogy that I like. You let it in, you let it out, you let it in, you let it out. Let it breathe, let it go, let it come back in. As soon as you start to tighten up, what happens when you stop breathing? You pass out and you die. That's what's going to happen to your business if you don't let it go. That's with investments, that's with hiring, that's with spending Facebook ads or Google ads or whatever it is, those non-tangible things that are kind of hard to grasp sometimes. You got to let things go, let things breathe. So every quarter, 50% of that profit account, I use it however I want. And usually it's a vacation. Sometimes I donate. Sometimes I put it into buying gifts for other people or whatever. It's just whatever gives me the joy and the fulfillment at that moment, right? But that's up to me, right? And then another thing that I do, so you pay for taxes, you pay your estimated taxes quarter after quarter after quarter. But then once you pay for those estimated taxes and you've completed that tax season, I take whatever is left over in that account and I'll throw it back into my business. I'll throw it back into profit, or I will just go and spend it. That I give myself more flexibility on for whatever I want to do. The profit account, I make sure that money is selfishly for me, even if I'm like donating it to somebody else, because like that can still be a selfish thing because it feels so good to give. You know what I mean? So it's just, it's up to you. Like whatever you do with that, you have to make sure it's up to you. And that is whatever fills you up at that moment, that's what you want to do. And even like, I'm talking about charity a lot, but donating can also come from a selfish place too, because it feels good in some weird way. I don't know about you, but for me, like I always love giving gifts at holidays more than receiving gifts. I know it's like, I think it's pretty 50-50 with people. I'm not really sure, but that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make here. But anyways, I'm more flexible with the taxes. Profit, that's me. That's for me. Taxes is like, okay, I'll put it back in the business, or I'll throw it into the profit account, or I will spend it for something. That's just kind of more flexible stuff. But the key is to take it after you're done paying for all your tax year. That's over, done. You've given everything that you needed to give. Whatever's left over, make sure you wipe it clean. Start with a clean slate. So that is that process. That's the system that I use. It's the Profit First method, and it's so powerful, and it's changed my life that I teach it in the Creator's Blueprint as one of the videos of that program. So I hope this helps. Let me know if you have any questions, whether you think it's crazy or not. I promise you it's not crazy. Go pick up the book. Go find out for yourself. I'll have a link in the show notes. And if you have any questions, just shoot me a DM at Zack Michalowicz, and I'm happy to help in any way, whether a bank recommendation or whatever it is that you need. I'm happy to help. So that's it for the podcast. If you've got a question, or if you have a topic that you want me to cover, shoot me a DM on Instagram at Zack Michalowicz, and I'll be sure to cover it or come up with an idea that's similar. I want to hear what you guys need for this podcast. We had a great episode with Julia Gardner on our last episode. Go check that out if you haven't listened to it just yet. We'll be having more guests on and more solos as well. Have a great rest of your week, and I will talk to you guys soon. Peace.